Here we go with chapter 33 continuing. En cum circa Palatium. And when it probably a since here, and since around the Palatium was the seat of the old Romans, or this is where they dwelt, around the Palatium, and the Sabini, these are plural men of people, they had the Capitolium and the Arcam. The Arcam is a citadel and the Capitol line. Where have we got another nominative plural? And the Albani people had implecented, they had filled up the Caelium Mont. These are different parts of where these newcomers are brought in. So the Nova Multitude, these are the new multitude we saw of these conquered people who were coming to live around Rome. To them was datum given the Aventine. So all these people groups got their own little segments of territory where they're staying. So addatai, we have add in English. So in addition, basically, iadem hord ita multo post. So not much afterwards into the iadem, into the same place, were the Captis, Telenus, and Ficinus. These are two other towns they captured, as you can tell from the Captus bit. These people in English, who the hell are they in English? It's probably written somewhere. The towns of Telene and Ficane. So not much after, they were added to the same area, which would be on the Aventine. These are new Cives, new citizens from the captured towns. So, Politorium, another place, was inde then, Rursus again, repetitum, so we get repetition from that, was done, attacked again, bello in war, quod. Here's the reason why, because they were vacuuming too much. No, because it was empty. There was a vacuum there, and this vacuum had been occupaverented. It had been occupied, and the people in the nominative were doing it. The Prisci Latinis had occupied this vacant city. These are the old Latin people, probably from where we get the word Latin. And iaque, and for ia causes, causa direwende, it looks like a gerundive, means they overturned and destroyed and did a lot of damage in this city, Urbis Eos. This was done by the Romans. Romanus did this. That was the gerundive, and this is the dative plural. What do you call it? The dative and ablative plurals look like that. Lest that this shall be a receptacle, asset, so an ongoing receptacle or a place for the hostium always. So if this city was left empty, this would always be a receptacle for the enemy. And the lest is taking the SA and putting a T on the end of it there for this neuter. Post remo, coming to the end. Finally, omni bello, taking compulso as well. In all this war, the Latino people, these are these Latins, they were compulsoed or driven to the accusative place, to Meduliam, and aliam do, for some time, ibi there, Marte incerto. Mars was uncertain, Mars being the god of war, so the war and the battle was a bit uncertain. Varia victoria pugnatum est. So it was fought with various victories. One side would win, one would, then the other would. That's how Mars was uncertain. So, nam et urbs tuta, for also the city was safe. This would be this here place, this city, with munition buses, which are fortifications. So the city is a female. It was formated, so it was strengthened with a presidio, which is a garrison, which was valido, strong. So we have with fortifications and with a garrison which was strong, and castris, and from the castris, from the camp, which was positus, which was placed in aperto, in the open, alio quotens. Sometimes the exercitus latinus, the Latin army, would come into this adverb, communis, which is hand-to-hand, very close fighting, compared to E minus, which is long distance with javelins and throwing things, with the Romanus. So they came into close hand-to-hand combat with the Romanus being the Romans, and they were contolerating their standards, their signa. They're like big poles with flags on it, I guess. ad ultimum, something like towards the end, omnibus copiibus is okay. So Ancus, he's the nominative guy, as we saw, he was in charge. Ancus, Nissus means relying on, and so Conesus, he was relying on, taking these dative ablatives. So Ancus, relying on all these copious forces, he vincated, he conquered primum, first of all, the Achi, which was the battle lines of the enemy. And so Inde, then proceeding onwards, with Ingentai Pradia, so he's conquered the army, then must have gone into the city and got some huge booty. The Potens Ancus, this guy prevailing, being Potens, being strong, he reddited, meaning he returned to Rome. Tum also, so then also, multus millibus, many thousands, taking the genitive of Latinoriums, of the Latin people, many millibus acceptus, so many thousands are accepted or received of these Latins into the civitatem, into the city-state, into the people group, in the community. Quibus, by which means the Aventium, which we saw up here, is where these other new people had gone. It was a Jungerator that was joined to the Pallatio. So we had these. That's the Palladium was where the old Romans were living. So the Avention was joined to the Pallatio. Here at Merciae, which apparently is some altar, they were given seds. They were given their seats. So that was their new home. So they brought many more thousands of people in, and the city keeps growing. Ianiculum. Another place was also adjectum, added or injected into this growing Rome. Not by an inopia of loci, not because there was a lack of space or places, sed nay, but lest, quando, looks like sometime off in the near future, this would be an arx, a citadel or a stronghold, hostium, of the enemy. Id. So this, non solum, which means not only, not solely, with a muro, nice painted mural on the wall. So not only with a wall, said Etienne, but even because of the commodatem itineris, because of the convenience or making the ease of the itinerary, making ease of travelling or having a journey. There was not only with a wall, but with a ponte sublico. Ponte's bridge, sublicio, comes from an adjective putting on piles. It's like a big pile of rocks maybe they put the bridge on. So tum primum, so then it was the primum, the first. Facto means done in the Tiber. So this would be the first bridge on the Tiber. And placuit, it was pleasing, it was decided that it would conjugate to the city. So we saw that here they wanted to join the Palatine to the Aventine. Now they've made a bridge across the Tiber and they've made an ease of the passing or journeying and have connected this place to the city. So as usual, we'll have a daily dictionary word, a sublicus, resting on, supported by piles. And as most adjectives, and has a form, masculine, feminine, neuter, single, plural. We have comparatives, superlatives. I don't know how accurate they are because this site's wrong a lot. Anyway, back to the plot. The Quiritium quoque fossa. So also there was the Quiritium fossa, which is a big ditch. Usually they put around camps, etc. It was horde parvum, so it was not a small monumentum, not a small fortification. This was from the planoribus, talking about comparatives here. So this is from the flatter approach of the place. So planior just means flatter, and added to is a fourth declension for the approach or how you get to a place is from the entryway or something like that. So there was a big ditch. It wasn't a small fortification. It was done on a flatter place. And this was the opus est. This was the work of Regus Anci, King Ancus, who was the guy who did most of this other stuff up here, invading these other places. Okay, Ingentai Incremente. By huge increments, Auctus Rebus. Rebus, as we know, is the Republica, is the Republic. So by this huge increment, the Republic or the state was increased. cum in tanta multitude hominorum. So when in such a multitude of men, there was discriminate. Yep, they were discriminated against. There was a lot of differences. And recte and purpuram. Recte means doing things right. Purpuram means doing things wrong. So facti confuso. So the deeds, people were confused between right and wrong in their deeds and their differences, basically. And facinora clandestine afferent. So clandestine facinoras were being done. A facinus is a crime or a deed. Here it would be a crime. So clandestine would mean secret. Secret crimes were being done. There were so many people here. They didn't know the difference between right and wrong. So a casa, which is a jail, ad terrorum in crescentis audacia. So to the terror of these increasing boldness in the media urbe, which mean in the middle of the city, was edificatur, was built a casa, which would be a jail, which was imminens the forum, which means hangs over, so it was hanging over the forum. So I don't know how it was hanging over the forum. The foundation must have been smaller than the roof, probably. Okay, the Silva Masia, this is Amasian woodland, was adempta, taken away, probably get redeemed and other things from that base word, from the Vientibusses, from the Vientines, usque, as far as mare imperium prolatum. So the imperium, this is their things they rule, was prolated or stretched out ad mare to the sea, and in ore Tiberius, and in the mouth of the Tiber, which was the river, was condited or founded the Urbs Ostia, the city of Ostia. Kirka facta, around this fact or this thing being done, was a salinae, a salt works or a salt plant. And there's the enclitic and. Egregi, this means it's an adverb probably for something like the special rebus bello gestus. So the rebus gestus are the things done in the war. So things have gone well, that's probably what the egregious bits are. So things have gone so well in wars that they amplificated, it means they enlarged the Adus Jovis Fetria, the temple of Jove Fetrius, whoever Fetrius is. Okay, so temple of Jupiter Fetrius, the temple of Jupiter Ferestrius, age Jupiter Fetrius, was according to legend the first temple ever built in Rome. And the Wikipedia there if you want to Google it. Okay, 34. Enco regnate, so with Encius ruling, that's the present participle ablative. Here we have a nominative, Lucomo of via impiga. Piga means lazy, so impiga means he was energetic, not lazy. And he was divitus, so he was rich, and he was potens. So it looks like he's become a powerful man. He migrated to Rome, with a desire, or in a desire, and a cupidae maxime, greatly, and spe, and with a hope of magnae honoris, of great honours, of which adipescendi, the deponent of the gerund, of obtaining in Tarquinus, which is a place, and then we have these little hyphen section of a clause, for there also he was a peregrinus stirp, so he was a foreigner born there, Oriundus, so he was living in this place here, Tarquinus, but even there he was Oriundus, he had come from a foreign thing, and so the facultas, or the means of adipisceing, of getting these great honours, were non furat. He didn't have in his hometown, so anyway, while Encus was ruling, this guy here migrated. Demarati Corinthi, as we can see, Corinthus is Corinth. He was a filius in the nominative of Demaratus of Corinth, Erat, he was, who, because of seditions, these are like riots or rebellion or sedition, he was a profugus. He had fled from Dome, from his home. So he fled from Corinth, obviously, gone up to, here we are, Forte. By chance, he had conceded. So he had settled down in Tarquinus, in Tarquini. So that's his origin story. He was a son of a guy from Corinth who had left there because of rebellions or some seditions. And he was living in Tarquinus, where he'd settled, and Ibi there. he had ducta uxor, he had married a wife, and he had genuated, he had born 2 sons, and now he's in Rome. The nomina, plural neuter, the name his to these duos filius, to these 2 sons, were Lucumo and Arons fuerant. So Lucumo and Arons. Lucumo, the first we mentioned, he's superfluided, he's patri, so he survived or lived longer than his father, and he was the heir, the heres, of double genitive, bonorum omnium, of all of his goods. And we're coming to an end. Arons, he's the second born, prior quam, prior than, okay, so he died prior than his pater. Don't know if that's particularly good Latin. We have a nominative. So Arons died prior to his father, and he relicta, having left behind an uxor gravida, pregnant wife. Okay, so Lucumo survived his father. Arons died prior to his pater. Nec divi menet. Neither did he remain long, the father, did he survive this son. So if you put these 2 little clauses together, Arons died prior than his father, but the father didn't live, father did not remain long to his son. Yeah, confusing way of putting it. But qui who, cum, when, ignorans. So the father was ignorant that she was ferraing the denorum, this is his daughter-in-law, young woman, was ferraing in her belly a ventrum, because she was gravida, she was pregnant and heavy. He was ignorant that there was a child, it looks like, immemor. So he was immemor of his nepotus, of his grandson, so decessit. So it looks like in his testament, in his will and testament, he left nothing for this grandson. The puro to this son. Post avi mortem, so we have post mortem with the genitive. After the death of his grandfather, this boy was natoed, he was born. He had no lot, no sortem of any of these goods of his grandfather, and from the inopia, from his lack of, he indicted, he put on the nomen, the name of Egerio. So he derived his name Egerio because he was born with nothing from the well, and so Egerio became his name. Lucamoni, dative. So to Lucamo, contrarily, he was the heredi, which is the form of heir in the dative. To Lucamo, the heir, contrarily, were omnium bonorum, all the goods. And with his divite, with his riches, yam now, he had facerented, he had made some animos, he had made some courage, or he was bold. And he auxited, it looks like he increased his status, when ducta in matrimonium tenequil. So he married Tenequil, who was nata, born from the ablative, from a sumo loco, from a very high standing place, and quae, which, hord facili, not easily, the is in quibus nata, from the place in which she was born, she would not sinneret. We saw yesterday there was sinneret, there was a altered spelling of it. She would not allow or suffer a humilior place than which she was born, in which she inupsided. So when she got married, she didn't want to have a lower place than which she was born in. And that's it for the day.